So, sorry about that for the first 30 something seconds. I forgot to engage my
Friends, there's a fine
microphone
line
on the
between being
broadcast.
a conspiracy theorist and seeing a clear pattern. I walk that line, and I
Okay.
am confident in perceiving a common thread among these attacks on Oscorp and
Hey,
Norman
let me pause
Osborn
this real quick. I'm just doing this for the
by
moment
the demons. The motive? It's
to to get a better recording. I can't record on my phone, so I apologize if this is a little rough. But I want to review some of the circumstances that's going on in the world right now. Well, just going on in the U.S. specifically. So, as it stands right now, there have been a lot of protests, a lot of looting and rioting, and just complete destruction of law and order, the tearing away of a justice system that we have been able to rely on for a long time, and with good reason. But you got people who don't, they don't just simply use a bug bomb to get rid of a pest problem. They shoot a rocket into the house, and that's my way of pretty much identifying the behavior of social justice warriors, the Black Lives Matters movement, Antifa, all these groups that say that they want justice, that say that they want freedom and fair treatment and all this other stuff. All these nice things that they come out with, really don't want any of that. They want things their way. They want to get away with things, is what it comes down to. Law enforcement, like any other profession, has its bad apples. You're going to have people who don't come to the job with the right frame of mind. They're going to be a problem. They're going to cause issues for everybody around them. And they honestly don't deserve to wear the badge. That's why we have internal affairs. That's why we investigate said officers. Now, when the George Floyd thing happened, everybody lost their mind. And rightfully so. Because having to watch a man with a knee in his neck lay there until he just goes limp is a horrible thing to witness. So, and nobody should go through that. Now, regardless of what the man's history is, what happened to him was not fair. He did some bad things in his time when he was alive, and we can't really fault the man for it now because, of course, he's passed. And to me, I honestly, I'm a believer that, regardless of what you think about a person, whether you think they're bad, good, or whatever, I think that them dying pretty much makes up for any of that, because that's something you can't take back. You can't get your life back. So I think he's paid his dues one way or the other. And not fairly, of course. I mean, he shouldn't have died that day. But people are making a bigger issue out of this than what it should have been. Because, for one, and I even told my wife this, the officer involved is going to be held responsible. Regardless, they're going to fire him first or let him off. And then an investigation is going to open up. That goes without saying, because the family, of course, is going to request an investigation into the officer and the associated officers involved in the circumstances. But before we could even get any charges pressed against this guy, everybody start losing their minds, going down to the streets and breaking into businesses, shattering windows, toppling things over, pushing cop cars onto, flipping them upside down, put them onto their hoods, catching them on fire, throwing Molotov cocktails all over the place, just complete chaos. All because they got tired of the horrible, evil racism, systemic racism that's going on in the country, which, let me just put it out there, it's not what they think it is. It's not nearly as bad as what they think it is. Actually, to tell you the honest truth, I don't believe in systemic racism, but I'll get to that in a few moments. But before anybody knew what was going to happen, as a result of this man's death, wrongful death, they jumped the gun and they took shit way too far. So far that even some Democrats and some, other social justice warriors were saying, no, you got to stop. You're getting too far. Some of us own these businesses. Some of us make a living off of these businesses or live in these neighborhoods. You can't be doing this shit. But to be truthfully honest, all this started with today's standard of social justice. It started with people just protesting in the streets over any and every movement that they could think of off the top of their head. The gay community and started protesting for rights. They felt like they weren't afforded the same rights as everybody else, which in one regard they were correct. They didn't have the right to marriage, as in the same instance that straight couples have the right to marry in the court of law. We took care of that. We made it perfectly legal across the board. There was hesitation in some states, but for the most part, you can pretty much go anywhere and get married if you're gay. You're afforded the same job opportunities. There isn't a lack of employment for people who are gay or trans or whatever. That's not a thing. In fact, I don't think it's ever been a thing, really. Because even the trans community had come out and said that when it came to the whole bathroom issue, they said, well, you wouldn't even know that we were in the bathroom a lot of times. So, but it goes from that to we can't get jobs because we're trans, or we can't get jobs because we're gay. That's the crock of shit. I've had many friends who are gay, and I'm going to put myself out there. I experimented when I was younger. That doesn't necessarily make me gay, but I was young and I tried something different. It wasn't my thing. So I have no right to, bash on somebody for having a different lifestyle from my own, or having a different sexuality from my own. But having many friends who are gay and seeing them get jobs, sometimes faster than even I could get, even I could get a job, or even some of my straight friends could get a job. To see that and then see people out here complaining about it, was that kind of thing that started all this. It started the generation of protesting. Well, at least to this degree. Of course, we had the protests in the 60s, a totally different scenario. Because there was things back then to protest over that were serious, that people rightfully objected to. But now, people just pander. They pander to these stupid movements. They pander to the trans rights movements, the LGBTQ community. They pander to the Black Lives Matter community. They give a pat on the back to these Antifa groups that don't act with any level of civility, however you pronounce that. Sorry. They don't act civil in any way. They go out here and they try to strong arm people into either seeing things the way they see it, or they try to lash out against them. Right now, I've seen this recently on a separate YouTube video. There was a situation, or there's a situation in Washington right now where I think it's a few city blocks are being blocked off and closed off by maybe Antifa, social justice warriors, just I guess a mixture, a combination of different people, different movements, and they're trying to declare their own country, and they're calling it Chaz. Yes, you heard me right, Chaz. And you know that you're thinking it, and I'm thinking it, so let's just throw it in there and get it out of the way while we can. Call it Chaz Bono. Chaz Bono. You can run with that. Call it the country of Chaz Bono, or you can just narrow it down to being the name of the cool white kid in class back in the 90s, back in the early 90s, Chaz, because that sounds like a 90s kid name, doesn't it? But I'm getting off track, sorry. But all of this over a handful of incidents involving law enforcement. And yes, I say a handful, because really that's what it takes to set people off. And I'm not saying that these handful of incidents aren't important. I'm not saying that they don't have a mark in society, or they don't leave a mark in society of how people see law enforcement, because they do. But we went straight past the concept that not all law enforcement is bad. Like with any profession, you're going to have your share of bad apples. We went straight past that logic and jumped into, they're all bad, we have to abolish them. We got to completely eradicate law enforcement. Well, Chaz is trying to do just that. Actually, they have done just that. They've ran law enforcement out of that area. They're blocking it up, which I think is funny. They're putting up barricades, and blocking it off to where really nobody can get in unless they let them come in. It's funny that they're doing that, but this is the same crowd of people now that were in the streets with signs, screaming, yelling, blowing whistles, and pissing and moaning about Donald Trump wanting to put stricter immigration laws into effect and wanting to build a wall. These are the same people that was harping on and bashing against that. Now they want to put a wall up. And not only that, they have people armed with AR-15s and other various guns and weapons. And I'm like, y'all defeat your own cause even when you don't realize that you're defeating your own cause. You're going against your own narrative. You're going against your own principles. So how is justice going to work in this small country that's just now, well, they declare themselves a country. Let's be realistic here. They're not a country. They're not a country. If they are a country, I'll tell you what we should do. We should show to them what history has proven time and time again that conquering countries do to other countries that are not nearly as formidable. We should do just that. We should conquer them. Seriously. Now, whether you're for Trump or against Trump, I'm not 100% with Trump on everything. Excuse me. There's been a lot of things that he's said and done in the recent past month or two, that I am not with. I don't go along with him on. But I will say he is my president. And plugging my ears and going la 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 doesn't make him any less my president. But what he needs to do is, because he just made a statement, well, he tweeted it. He put it on Twitter. He said that pretty much, and I'm just giving you my rough take on what he said because I don't remember word for word. He's basically saying that this crap needs to stop. That they need to be, basically held accountable. And if it doesn't, then he's going to do it. He's going to take action. And someone, I don't know if it was a mayor or if it was a senator or whoever, someone came back and responded back to him, told him to go back into hiding in his bunker. Which, I'm sorry, but he brought on himself for that. And not just because he went to a secure bunker, because honestly, if people were trying to jump the fence to get to the White House, and if you've seen these crowds, you'd be scared too. I'm sorry, but if I thought that people were going to actually come to the White House, bust in and not knowing what the hell they were doing, because there's a lot of crazy people out there that want his head, I'd be in a bunker too. You can call him a coward or whatever. Call me one, because if I seen that many people coming at me, if I seen hundreds of people coming at me wanting my head, yeah, I would take cover as well. That would be anybody. Anybody in that position would do the same thing. Because people are fucking crazy. Excuse my language, but they are, especially nowadays. People don't see reason. Groups like Black Lives Matter, they don't see reason. They bitch about one thing, but then do something that completely enforces stereotypes towards themselves and towards the black community in general. What do? Alright, they piss and moan about how law enforcement treats them. They piss and moan that law enforcement over the years has been profiling them for being black. Because a lot of people that, get profiled usually are being done so, or being profiled, sorry, I'm screwing up my speech again, are being profiled in majorly black neighborhoods. Ghettos, let's just cut straight to the middle. They're being profiled in ghettos. They don't like being profiled. They don't like being stereotyped. They don't like being put under a low standard. But then groups like Black Lives Matter enforce that low standard and those stereotypes by going out and doing something that police see them do in their own neighborhoods all the time. They go out and they destroy shit. They tear shit up. They tear entire neighborhood blocks up. And you can think what you want about me for saying that, but it's true. I'm not lying. I'm not saying anything that's not true. You can say I'm saying it from a hateful point of view, but if you want to, stretch that far with it, but I'm being truthful. This is what they have done. They went and they destroyed entire neighborhood blocks, caught shit on fire, destroyed businesses, even black-owned businesses. They defeat their own cause. They're not an organized movement, at least not a very well organized movement. They suck at it. And if they're the spokesperson, if Black Lives Matter is basically the collective spokesperson for a movement for black people, then they're giving black people a bad name. They're making the black community in America look stupid with their actions. It's not about law enforcement anymore, because at least we can say that not every law enforcement agency is bad. But Black Lives Matter as a whole has not shown itself to be anything good. its ideas and its views are outrageous, and it's caused more destruction than it's solved anything. Tell me what it's solved. Tell me how many communities it's actually built up, how many businesses it's contributed to, how many black children it's got off the streets and away from drugs, how many gang members it's reformed into not being into gangs, into getting a GED, getting their education, and getting a job and being a productive member of society. Tell me how well they've actually helped their communities. Because it seems like they didn't come together as BLM until...
Hard to ascribe motive
What
to
was
lunatic,
it? Was it the Michael Brown case or was it the Trayvon Martin case? I don't even know anymore. It didn't come together in the 1980s. In the 1990s, when black gangs were killing each other, shooting each other in the streets every day, killing each other over, drugs and money and turf that doesn't even belong to them in the first place. It belongs to the government. Why didn't they form back then? Why weren't they getting their children off the streets? Why aren't they investing into community centers? In fact, why haven't the Black Panthers been doing any of that? I mean, I'm not saying the Black Panthers haven't tried or put any effort into anything at all. Don't get me wrong. But you think if they were putting forth a good effort, then it wouldn't be as bad as what it is in a lot of these black communities and these black neighborhoods. But it is. It's bad. It's terrible.
Agents, this is Control. What's the situation in Longacre?
It seems that any black movement or group or organization hasn't really done much to help their own people. I'm not saying just leave it up to the white man, but I'm saying if you're going to organize yourself, do it for the right reasons. Don't do it just as an excuse to go out and loot and steal on it. Try to stick it to the man, because nobody gives a shit about sticking it to the man anymore. It's not an important agenda to anybody. It might have been cool back in the 60s and 70s. But nowadays, intelligent people who actually use critical thinking skills, don't paint everything as either being black or white. They look at a person's behavior. They look at the structural integrity of a law enforcement agency, or they look at the structural integrity of a organization or a business, and they say, well, the reason why it's not gaining, or the reason it is gaining, is because of how they apply themselves to the job at hand. And that's exactly, what groups like Black Lives Matter is failing at. They're not applying themselves appropriately to the thing that they say is their cause, because if they were, they would be helping their people, not hurting them. And it seems like they're hurting them more than anything. Is that Miles Morales? Yeah, it is.
You just made your last mistake, punk. What the?
Does it seriously take this many guys to rob a teenager?
Oh. Alright, we're gonna stop the topic real quick because I wanna... Oh, damn. Oh, there we go. There. You can hear me mashing those controls, can't you?
You hurt?
You're Spider-Man.
I gotta say,
You're the amazing Spider-Man.
I don't think this is canon to
Spider-Man.
what's
A few other
done in
choice
the comic
adjectives
books,
Jameson
but
uses. Look,
I like
that
how
was
they
really
kind of
brave.
mixed
But next time, leave the fighting to the pros.
all this together.
Okay,
like,
but what if there aren't any around?
I've never played
Well,
this
you can't just
before,
go
so I
swinging
don't
at
know
someone
if
twice your size.
Peter
I mean,
Parker's
don't get me
eventually
wrong.
going to die, but I
I
think
fight
the
guys stronger than
canon,
me all the time, but when I do it, I have.
like
that time you fought
well,
right on
what's
the Brooklyn
canon in
Bridge?
the comic books is that he
Perfect
dies
example.
and Miles
The other
Morales
guy's bigger,
takes the mantle
you
of
gotta be quicker.
Spider-Man.
Okay.
So it's weird to see this
Okay, but that's
going down.
It's easy for you to say. Sorry, I just can't do what you do.
But the story is well put together, and
All right,
I don't know if it's true or not.
Seriously? Yeah, come on.
I'm going to check into it, but I think the voice actor that plays Spider-Man is the same voice
First
actor
thing,
that played on
Don't let the adrenaline get to you.
the original
slow,
Spider-Man animated series,
deep,
like back in the
relax.
90s. So
Hip square to your opponent.
it sounds like him anyways.
Let them make the first move. Now use your feet. When they go off balance, look for an opening. Boom.
Like that?
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Only this time, just let me have it. Right on the jaw. Okay? I can. Oh, sorry. No. It's all good.
He's like, yeah, you
That
really
up
didn't
and,
have to put that
You'll
much
be fine.
oomph
All right.
into it.
Lesson's over. Gotta go. Hey, thanks. You know, anytime.
You did tell him to let you have it though, so that's only fair. You got a hell of a right foot, don't you?
Hey, can you help me get something to eat?
Shelter should be just ahead.
Okay, cool.
Yo, Miles, what's up?
Bro, you're not gonna believe this. I just met Spider-Man.
What? That's crazy. Hey, did you
Oh
show him we're hacking it?
man, but
Man,
back to what we were
I totally
discussing.
forgot.
The country is going
They would've
into
bought it off you, and then they'd be
complete
like
chaos
famous.
with everything
Yeah,
that's been
I'll
going
show him
on.
next time. I gotta go. I promised my mom I
And
wouldn't
I
be
think
late.
what we need
Cool,
is
later.
I think we need military intervention. Now, usually I'm the first person
Farmer's
to
market.
say no
Cut through there.
to the idea of the military coming in and dictating where we go, you know, what we do, because that to me is is equivalent to being a communist nation. But right now we need some kind of order, because these people that say that they care, these people that say that they want social justice and they want free expression, freedom of speech, and they don't want all that. They want it whenever it fits them.
Everyone have their IDs out and ready for inspection.
I mean, that's been proven time and time again. Only when it fits their
Kidding me?
narrative,
It's gonna
when it
take
fits
forever.
their agenda.
That drone wasn't watching. Could jump the fence.
Do you know anyone by the name of Martin Lee?
Wow, that was too easy. I can't believe Sable systems are unsecured. Maybe I'll send an anonymous tip.
This is kind of cool. Okay, I hear another one. Where is it at? There it is. Oh no, that's the same one.
Okay, hacking app. Don't fail me now. Maybe I could turn on that siren.
Aim at targets and hold to hack. Okay. There we go.
Okay. Okay, time to move.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's see. I can go under.
All right. Before I get further into that, I want to get back on topic because, like I said, this is a review of circumstances that are going on. But as I was mentioning before, social justice warriors, groups like Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and all these far left, extremists, anarchists, you know, they defeat their own cause with some of the stuff that they spew out. You know, for instance, they were complaining about gun violence in America as one of the things that has been protested against for several months now. And as soon as the looting and the rioting over the George Floyd thing took place, as soon as all that shit happened, guess what people did? Guess what the Democrats did? Guess what these liberal extremists did? They went out and started buying guns left and right. You know, and I don't blame them. They should. They should buy guns. They should protect ourselves. That's why we have a Second Amendment. That Second Amendment that they bitch about, that's there for a reason. And it's not to regulate who can have what type of gun. What gun you get is your business. How you use that firearm has consequences if you use it for a reason other than protecting yourself, your household, your family, your property. Then you are breaking a system of law, a system of justice that we have that regulates wrong from right. You are defying that. If someone goes down and murders someone in the heat of passion, they are breaking the law. We have a system in place that says you will get due process, but if you're found guilty of doing said action, then guess what? Hits to the clink with you. So these same people that were bitching about law enforcement, that was bitching about the system, that was bitching about wanting gun control, are the ones that are quick to buy up the guns. And are now sitting here saying, some of them, not all of them, some of them are sitting here saying that abolishing all law enforcement is bad. That we should only abolish, you know, some law enforcement, or no, not even that. Some of them, their take on it is that we should have stricter standards, stricter law enforcement training, which I agree with. I think that's right. A lot of conservatives believe that. I think there should be higher standards in law enforcement outside of just having a GED and a license. I think that there should be certain standards, certain practices put in play to ensure that we don't have an officer that's eventually going to lose his mind over something. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll be done in just a minute, alright? But even if we do that, what's to stop somebody from seeing the type of violence that we see in these inner city streets? Because to tell you the truth, the reason why a lot of officers get desensitized, so much so that they don't value the life of the suspects that they capture. The reason why is because they have to they've been conditioned to see the violence in these inner city streets. They see people, you know, kids, 17, 18 years old, black kids, mind you, because let's not beat around the bush on this one. Let's get straight to the point. A lot of inner city neighborhoods and streets are bad because of overall black crime. So they have to go through these neighborhoods. They have to see, and report on either black neighborhoods or Hispanic neighborhoods. shooting each other up, killing each other over dumb shit. They see this. It's kind of like throwing somebody into the Vietnam War. Some of these guys that went to the Vietnam War, they didn't want to go there. They didn't want to see some of the horrors that they saw, but they did. You know, these officers have to deal with seeing some of this shit every day. Every day. They have to worry about whether or not the next person that they pull over, you know, at a traffic stop is going to try to pull a gun out and shoot them at the window. I mean, that's because that happens all the time. But you don't hear about that part. And I'm not excusing the behavior of any officer that, you know, mishandles or mistreats a person, whether they're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, or whatever. But I'm saying you can at least understand the nature of the beast. And how that beast came to being as violent as what they have. What it has. And that's what it comes down to. Having to condition yourself to a violent area where half the time it's either Hispanic or black, but more so than not, it's usually black. At least see it from the police's perspective. They have to see this shit all the time. They have to deal with this shit all the time. If you're worried about law enforcement in America profiling you or automatically assuming you're a suspect because you're black, maybe there needs to be a culture change. Maybe you should change the black culture, this keeping it real mentality, this ghetto hood mentality. Maybe that needs to stop. And I know that sounds pretty extreme, but maybe it should. Because it's that kind of mentality that through the 80s and 90s has caused people to become hood rats, has caused people to become, you know, anything less than a productive member of society. That has fit into what has ultimately created the atmosphere for police and everybody else to see the average black man or black woman as a potential criminal. Because we all know that not everyone who's black is a criminal. There's a lot of good men and women in this world that are black that don't have the tenacity to go out there and break the law and to victimize and harm other people and then try to get mad at white society because they think that white society is the one forcing them to do that. There's a lot of people that are black that don't agree with that are conservatives, but what happens to them? They get called Uncle Toms. They get called house, enter N word there. So what do we do about that? We need a culture change. We need a change of violent and ghetto culture into a culture that respects its own people and respects other people. And doesn't shift blame to white folks. And that won't shift blame to white folks for the next 40 or 50 or 60 years from now down the road, you know? So I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and cut this video short. I'm sorry you didn't get to see much of the Spider-Man gameplay. I'm sure a lot of you have already played it. So peace, love, chicken grease, all that good stuff. Have a good one.